One zoning and general plan call for something.
Yeah, my sister, so Dad was one. My sister's another.
And the state thing up here, there's an SB2 grant to make ADUs and housing, streamline housing. And we made the argument that removing multiple zoning and multiple maps and streamlines the process. And there's a lot of reasons.
It's kind of funny.
They're paying for it. Yeah.
Well, we finally got moved
You get back
last
in the
week,
office?
so we're in my office. I've got like 50 boxes in my office. We did away with half our bookcases. Right, instead of the old walnut look, it's all, white woodwork. It's nice. But some of the old law books, we don't use them anymore. We don't need them. They were just kind of for decoration, but now we don't have room for them all, so we got to get rid of them. You want any law books?
No, I got a whole conference for lost. I got, he's been in a community development,
Yeah.
a whole wall of that.
It's online now. Yeah, we don't use them at all. Code books we can sometimes use because it's nice to be able to thumb through chapters and go to the index and get an overview without scanning through. But the case law, it's all online.
Well, if I need these books, there used to be, there was in Arizona, a big used bookstore. Now, this was 50 years ago, too. But 20 years ago. Yeah, they'd sell books by the yard. Yeah, so if they had 4 or 5 in one book or whatever,
Yeah, well, you got
and they sell them to decoration. So you got a house, you got the bookshelf, you got to fill it, you got to buy, bookshelf is about $3.
If anyone would like to use public comment during the meeting, just use the raise your hand function when it's time and I'll unmute you. Or tell me in the chat.
Are we ready? As soon as I get the signal, make sure IT is all good. Okay, I got the signal. All right, welcome to City Council on the 8th of September, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Jindal? Councilman Leonard?
Present.
Councilman Rigsby?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tempore Daley?
Present.
Mayor Duper?
Present.
Thank you.
We did not have closed session tonight, so we're going to move into the invocation and pledge of allegiance, which I will lead. Again, this is in keeping with a long-standing tradition of invocations. However, these are non-sectarian, and the invocations are not intended to proselytize or advance anyone or disparage any other faith or belief. So if you would join me, we'll start with a word of prayer. Dear Father in heaven, thank you again for keeping us safe and bringing us back here to discuss things most important about the city. Please guide us as we make decisions this evening. Watch over us, watch over our residents, our neighbors, and this country, Lord, as we experience some very challenging times. Thank you again for all your blessings, and in your name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Is there anyone waiting to speak from the public? There's no one here in the audience. Is there anybody online? No, it looks like we have one speaker. I guess.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. Is this the time in which I can make any comments?
Yes, you can speak about anything that's not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. My name's Erica, and I am just...
We might need to turn it up in the audience, or so we can hear a little bit. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
That's perfect.
Okay. So my name is Erica. I have lived here for about almost 20 years now, and I was one of the people that came and asked the city if we could start things like a dog park, and so they did. They actually worked with me in getting that going, and so I'm really pleased to see the general public really making use of that location for the large dog park as well as the small dog park. One of the things that I brought up as a concern over the years has been just the general maintenance of the area. You know, the grass doesn't seem to be growing much there. I don't know if it's getting watered on a regular basis. There's gopher holes everywhere. And one of my concerns is that dogs could break their leg in a hole if they ever were to run into one of those. And I know that the other parks in general, they get maintained very well, and I'm hoping to see that the dog parks get the same kind of attention. And I'm pleased to see that, you know, they have been doing things in the city, such as placing doggy bag waste bins along the sidewalks, because we've had a problem with people not picking up after their dogs and that kind of thing. So that's actually improved things quite a bit. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was with many of us now going outside, spending time outside, that sort of thing, because of COVID, I would really like to see that our landscape area would be even better maintained. We have certain areas that are somewhat irregularly, I think, maintained, and there's been issues of water leakage and algae growing on the walkways because of some of these areas not being tended to, and I think that has to do with trucks maybe not being able to get in or whatever, but that's what I've been told over the years anyway. But I'm finding that certain locations are not being tended to. And so I'm really hoping that there will be a little bit more attention paid to the maintenance of our, public areas. So I don't know if it's a, funding issue or what, but that is something that I'm really hoping will be more close attention paid to these things so that, we can enjoy them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the city manager would like to respond.
Hi, Erica. This is Jarb. Just
Jarb.
give me a call or email me. I still have the same email number, so call me or email me, please. Thank you.
Real quick, Erica, before you hang up, I'd like to ask you, what do you think of the artwork that's on the fence around the dog park?
I actually really like that. I was pleased to see that. I noticed that there were similar ones around the city, and, I'm not sure how that was acquired, if that was just donated or what, but, I thought that added a nice touch. I just hope that's not at the expense of, the actual maintenance of the city grounds. And so, but I do like it. I think it's very charming. My kids love it. So, it does add a touch of charm to our city for sure.
Yeah, those are separate funds, so you don't have to worry about that. But send an email to the city manager, and he'll look into your concerns.
Yes, I work with her on the original dog park, so.
Nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
Question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. What's his name? Erica, this is Councilman Daly. Thank you for your comment. You are singing in perfect harmony with an issue that I've been pursuing, and with some success with the city for most of my tenure on the city council. To maintain our landscape sends a message as to the quality of the community that we live in. I was unaware of the gopher holes and lack of maintenance in the dog parks, but I fully support what you're describing, and I'm sure if you contact Jarb Tapir, the city manager, then he will get on it. That's been my experience. But living in the desert when we're trying to reduce water and trying to reduce budget within the city, it's a challenge. It is a real challenge. And we've had this discussion just within the last couple of months on city council. But I agree with you. I think it's important to our citizens as well as to our visitors. So thank you for your comment. I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Erica, for your phone call. Do we have any other callers? Okay, it looks like no, so we will move on to our first scheduled item. Item number 1, which is a public hearing, Council Bill R-2020-30, amending the master user fee schedule and updating the fire prevention inspection and plan check fees.
Good evening, Council. We're going to have a presentation to start off with by Eric Johnson. He represents Revenue and Cost Specialists. They were the consultant who ran the fee study for the Fire Prevention Bureau for the fire department. So he's going to be able to share his screen and do the PowerPoint presentation. If you have questions afterwards, we can go through those.
This is Eric here, and it looks like I can't share my screen because the other participant is sharing.
We can see you.
But I can't share the PowerPoint because it says the other participant is already sharing, which is probably the regularly regularly scheduled items that's on the screen there.
We also can't hear him very well.
Hey, Eric,
So, yes,
will you go ahead and click the share your screen again?
I am, and it's saying I can't share while the other participant is sharing.
Okay, go ahead and try it again.
There we go. All right. Good evening, members of the City Council. Happy to be here tonight to present the results of the Fire Department Cost of Services Study. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Before I get started, I just want to give you a little background on revenue and cost specialists. We were founded in 1980 with the passage of Proposition 13 and Proposition 4, which I'll talk about more in a second here, by two former city managers and a finance director. And they really pioneered the concept of matching fee revenue with the cost of service. They realized the cities were going to need to know that information in the wake of Proposition 13 and Proposition 4. And over the last 40 years, we've studied over 200 different agencies in 5 different states. And I myself have been doing this for over 30 years and with over 100 agencies. So what have we done? We've recast the fire department budget with a business orientation. We did this because the voters told us to. In 1978, they passed Proposition 13, which was, as we all know, limited property taxes. But then a year later, they also passed Proposition 4, which said that fees that do not exceed the cost reasonably borne providing the service are not considered taxes. They wanted government to act more like a business and know its costs. Well, while governmental accounting does a great job of tracking revenues and expenses at the fund, department, and division level, it was never really designed to track revenues and costs at a service level. So we worked with the fire department staff to identify the full business cost of providing these services to the fire department customers. So there is no city manager service or fire chief service. These costs, amongst others, are part of the overhead support cost. Just like when you go to the store, you buy a can of corn. You know when you buy that can of corn that it includes the farmer and the canners and the distributors and the truck drivers and of course the checkers at the grocery store. You know that. Well, we have done that same thing here with the department services. We have identified the full business cost of providing services to your customers. As a business, you won't stay in business very long if you don't know this information. Additionally, you will also not stay in business very long if you're not able to match up revenues with those costs. So we've done that here also. For every fee service, we have identified the revenue and matched that up with the cost of providing that service. So how did we go about doing this? Well, we started by meeting with the department staff. We wanted to establish what are the services being provided and how much time is being spent by staff and contract staff to provide those services. We reviewed the budget, we calculated an overhead rate to capture the city overhead costs and the departmental overhead costs, and we created a fully allocated hourly rate for every position within the fire department. And so that includes salaries, benefits, operating expenses, city overheads, department overheads, and there was actually some division overhead in there also. And we took that hourly rate, we matched that up with that service time details, and now we know what the service cost for that fully allocated business cost of providing the service. We reviewed the recovery percentages based on the current fees, and we made recommendations to, in most cases, recover 100% of those costs. And of course, we looked at all the fire departments, including the bulk of what the fire department does, which is the community-supported fire suppression, fire response. So it's what we call a community-supported service, a tax-supported service. Those things that when people say, what do my taxes pay for? This is what their taxes pay for. It benefits the community as a whole. Contrast that with personal choice services or fee services, where the customer is identifiable, the service is measurable, and you benefit the individual or a group and not the broader community. And so you still can't subsidize those services based on social safety or welfare reasons. But think of, the plan check services are typically those things that we see as personal choice services.
May I interrupt for a minute? I'm getting very, very little out of this presentation based on the quality of the audio.
Okay.
And I've got the handout, and I'm looking at the, but if you could speak a little more slowly, and if we could get the audio dialed in so there's not feedback, that would be very helpful. Because I've got some questions about the methodology behind what you've done.
Okay. I guess I'll continue on here, but if we need to go back later, we certainly will.
Okay.
But in essence, what I'm saying is that taxes and grants are there to support community supported services. Fees are there to support personal choice services. And to the extent that fees don't cover the cost providing the service, that money comes from taxes. Now, as part of this process, we identified $5.2 million in subsidy going to fee services. That's a lot of money. We're not expecting anywhere close to that being recovered through the fee recommendations changes that we've made. We think that the city will only get about $14,000 in new fee adjustments. And the reason for that is there are some services that are going to have continued subsidies. So some fees are going up to reflect the time spent on those services. Some fees are going down to not only reflect changes in that time, but also to reflect different positions at different salary levels from 5 years ago. This also reflects the department's use of contract services to provide special plan check services. So that's what the adjustments to the fees. The reason that it's only about $14,000 increase versus a $5 billion difference is that there are certain services that will continue to have subsidies. Medical aid response, there are fees for that there. We didn't feel that any increases or changes to those fees would work in the marketplace. False alarm response and weed abatement are more designed to charge those who aren't getting their act together, who aren't clearing their property or aren't fixing a problem alarm. And then engine company inspection had a 50% cost recovery from before based on council direction from 5 years ago. And we've continued that 50% cost recovery. So engine company inspections are only recovering about half of their fully allocated cost. So this really is about making adjustments to bring the fees both up and down to reflect the cost providing that service today. We've identified those recommendations based on those costs, and now it's up to the city council to decide which services should be charged these full costs and which services should be subsidized with tax dollars. And that concludes my presentation.
So let me, I'm sorry.
This is Councilman Daly. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your name. Eric, okay.
My name?
Thank you.
Eric Johnson.
Thank you, Eric. There's no way we can get around the feedback we've got? Okay. Eric, a couple of questions. I think to review fee structure against costs is a very legitimate endeavor that we need to do on a regular basis. Is that required by the state, or is that our own?
No, required by the state, right?
Okay. So I guess my first question is, who are you? Are you an independent agency? Are you a consultant to Loma Linda? Or just who are you and what's your background that brings us to you?
He's a consultant. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess the presentation really didn't come across very well. I'm a consultant. I work with Revenue and Cost Specialists is the name of my company. I've been doing this for over 30 years, providing these services to over 100 different agencies, mostly in California.
Thank you. And if I understand your methodology in this, your primary goal in doing the study is to evaluate the Loma Linda Fire Department fees to be sure they support the costs of performing those reviews or duties. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And can you summarize your recommendation or your findings based on that goal?
Sure.
Because I've got multiple handouts here, but I'm trying to understand them.
So if you're looking at the report itself, there's a summary schedule. There's some text in that report, and just past that, there's a summary schedule that at the top says summaries of revenues, costs, and subsidies.
Right.
And so looking at that schedule gives you an idea of where the department is at this point in time. That column 3 is the current total revenues based on the current fees. That column 4 is the cost of the fully burdened cost of providing those services. So therefore, column 5 is just that difference. So if it's a positive number, that means the current fee is above the cost. If it's a negative number, that means the current fee is below the cost. So if it's above the cost, the fee has to come down. You have no choice about that. You can't charge more than the cost. If the fee is below the cost, you can raise the fee to get to that cost, but you don't have a requirement to charge 100% of those costs.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if this question is more appropriate for you or the city manager or the fire chief, but I'm looking at reference number S-002F on page 2 of our agenda, dated September 8. And it says that underground piping plan check inspection is currently 0, and the recommended fee is $12.25 per system. Why would there be no fee currently if it's costing us that kind of money?
Councilman Daly, I can answer that for you.
Thank you.
Let me go ahead and jump in here and let me go ahead and jump in.
Because I have the same question about multiple other fees that follow it, so maybe a general answer would be helpful to me.
I can answer that for the councilman, the council member about why we made those adjustments, why there's a 0 next to some, and why there's a new fee. I wrote down a couple, just to give you a little historical background about
You're 6 feet away, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
the
you.
fire department.
Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons why we did it. Jarb kind of touched on it a bit, is when I came on as the fire marshal, I was reclassified. The position 5 years ago was tied to a division chief salary, and it got reclassified to a captain's salary, so there's a cost reduction there. Plus, the fire inspector pay rate was at top step, because the gentleman that worked here before was at top step at the time the pay or the fee study was done 5 years ago. The new inspector we have, he's brand new, so his pay is also lower. So that is one reason why we did it, is we were charging people fees that might not be current with the pay salaries.
But this
of the
says current
team.
fee none.
Right. So when I was going through the fee study with Eric that was done 5 years ago, there was a number of inspections and plan check types that weren't captured 5 years ago. I've been in this position. I started in the fire inspector position about 2 years ago, came to the fire marshal's position. I kind of saw this gap that we were doing inspection and plan checking, and we didn't have a fee to charge for it. And that's not the only one. I highlighted a few others, commercial solar plans, underground piping, fire pump systems. We do those type of inspections and plan checks, and we didn't have a mechanism to charge for them because they weren't captured 5 years ago.
Okay, so let me expose the concern that I have.
Yes, sir.
When I originally ran for city council 10 years ago, there were multiple issues. One of the issues that I heard about from multiple homeowners and their contractors or / developers was that the city planning department or inspection department at Loma Linda was impossible. I had 2 contractors tell me they wouldn't do work in Loma Linda anymore because it was so complicated. And so when we're looking at increasing, I don't know what the frequency level is on the types of tasks we're talking about.
Sure.
But when we start adding these kinds of costs to doing business in Loma Linda, if contractors or developers consider them unreasonable, we're going to hear about it.
Sure.
And I want to have an answer for them, because we've got, I'm looking at, again, page 2, and I won't read the titles, but it's 510 per test, and then none, 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 none. And we're adding significant, in the hundreds to thousands of dollars per each one of those. And I'm not, I guess I'm not willing to vote to approve this until I understand more clearly, so that I can explain to my constituents just what's going on.
Yeah, and that's something, Eric, we can navigate with you.
Because what I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir. No, that's fine.
I don't mean to interrupt. What I'm hearing right now is this was an oversight from previous years, and now that you're here and we have this guy doing the review for us, we realize that we're undercharging people for these kinds of activities. Am I correct about that, or am I wrong?
We're not recouping the cost of doing those plan check and inspections currently. That is correct. We don't have a mechanism to charge developers and contractors to do those type of inspections. I think Eric can help you navigate the fee study, because part of the thing we do is time on task. So the dollar amount that's tied to it, him and I got together, we went through the previous fee study. I've been in this position for a while, in the inspector position. I have a good foundation, a good feel of what it should take to do these certain types of inspections. So there's a time on task component tied to it. And so, yes, like an underground fire inspection, any new development in the city, they're typically going to tie into the city water system to do, private fire hydrants and all that other stuff for fire risers. And any new development does have that, and we do a minimum of 3 inspections if there's no re-inspections for that type of stuff, and we're not recouping costs on that currently. It was an oversight. I'm going to tell you bluntly that that's what it was. The other thing that this does, I totally understand where your concern is about people saying maybe the fire department or the planning department was difficult to work with. This is another mechanism to help clean that up, and I'll tell you why. Back in February, we entered a contract, the council agreed to it, with a company called Dennis Grubbs and Associates. They're a world-class plan checking consultant, and I brought them on just for that reason. When I was the inspector a couple years ago, and not to talk disparagingly about what happened a couple years ago, I would have frustrated contractors because things were missed on the plan check side. I would go and do the inspections, code's the code, unfortunately, it's the basics, things would be missed, and then there was re-engineering and construction stoppages to fix those mistakes that weren't caught during the development and the design phase. So what this does, this new fee study, that is also recouping the costs from our consultant who does the plan checks for our city. So everything gets done right the first time, properly on the 2-dimensional sheet of the new development that's coming in, and the contractors love it because it's done right. We have a standard. It's memorialized on that plan, and when we go out to do the inspection, we're just verifying, and we're not causing more headaches for the contractor. They rather pay a little bit more up front, because if things are missed during the plan check and we go out there and do the inspection, it's a heck of a lot more money for re-engineering and stoppage of construction. So they actually support this kind of stuff to have things done right the first time.
Okay. Next question would be for Eric, and that is there some kind of document or certifying that the quality of your study, that we're not getting too detail-oriented at Loma Linda as compared with surrounding communities?
As far as the work being provided?
As far as the cost of the work being provided?
Oh, as far as every city's different, but every city goes through the same steps typically. And so that is part of that time allocation process as we're going through, and we're talking about the times. And if there's times that come back to me that feel, based on my experience, seem too low based on what's being described, or too high based on what's being described, I'll push back on that and say, okay, what are you guys doing here? What are you guys doing there? And I must say, as I went through this in Loma Linda, that wasn't the case as far as too much or too detailed based on what I'm seeing out there.
I mean, I could go through multiple pages here, but that, you understand the basis of my discomfort at this point. And I want to tell you guys, I mean, everybody is a big fan of a fire department. I mean, you guys have the sheriff's office beat and police officers hands down in terms of popularity. Just to get personal for a minute, year and a half ago, my son collapsed and died in our house, and you guys were there within 3 minutes and took over and were fantastic. So I'm a big fan of the fire department for all the reasons most citizens are. But I need to know there's justification for this, because I don't want contractors contacting me and homeowners that are trying to do expansions contacting me, or people that want to bring developments, home developments in and say, what the heck is going on here? You know, it used to cost us X, now we're looking at X, Y, Z. And that's a concern I have. And it's not that I don't trust you. Some of these activities you list, I don't even understand them. I don't know what they are, you know, but I trust you.
Yes, sir.
Actually,
But how we could have overlooked this for the last 10 years, how we could have overlooked this for the last 10 years and now suddenly be imposing these additional costs troubles me. And again, I'm not sure if I should be directing that to you or, well, the fire chief wasn't here then, or Jar, but I am troubled by it.
Sure. And I think Eric had a comment, then I'll jump in with my comment.
Okay.
yeah. The things that we broke out are things that were kind of bundled in together with the sprinkler plans. And so the underground sprinklers, the fire pump, the standpipe are all part of a sprinkler plan. And they're part of a sprinkler plan on a larger building, typically. And so it's things that it could have been missed, but it was probably something that was bundled in as part of that sprinkler plan before. And then we broke that out this time. Tom rightly brought it up because it's those things. Not every building has a fire pump, or not every building has say a standalone standpipe, because those are things that are more the standalone by themselves. So they happen very rarely. It's when you come in with a standpipe system by itself without a sprinkler system. It's when you come in with a fire pump by itself without a sprinkler system, or underground piping by itself without a sprinkler system. And so in that regard, it's not being charged extra, because if it came in as part of the sprinkler system, they'd be charged just the sprinkler system. These are just for those relatively few. For the underground piping, we estimated 3 a year. For the fire pump, 1 a year. For the standpipe, 1 a year. So these are really more of the one-offs that we weren't able to capture those because we didn't have a separate fee for those that came in by themselves, because they were bundled in as part of the sprinkler. And so it's not something that's going to be this big extra fee on all these people putting in sprinkler systems.
If I may jump in, Councilman Daly, and to build off of that, like you said, they're very rare. They're very niche inspections, and developers come in, and it's very small amount. Like I said, once a year, if that. So it's a big maybe on some of those. The underground, I will say, any new develop that comes in, 99% of the time, they're going to have to put in an underground system. So that was not captured in the last one. And also, again, just to talk about the contract with Dennis Grubbs, he charges that way by individual product. So sprinkler system, or if there's a fire pump attached to it, he charges for that. So all we did was we took his fee schedule and we melded it with our inspection time to come up with these new fees. And in the grand scheme of things, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, the new cost every year, a burden is less than $14,000 from what we currently have. So it's not a huge jump. My whole goal was to capture correct fees based on my salary now, the new inspector, and then our plan checking fee, and capture some of the stuff I saw was missing from 5 years ago. but a contractor's not going to hit with astronomical fees. Those are very rare occurrence stuff that was missing. Like commercial solar just doesn't happen very often.
So let me see if I understand what you just said. That there are some tasks or activities here that were not itemized out 5 years ago. And what you are attempting to do with Eric is to identify what's the time involved and charge appropriately for the time involved.
At my salary, yes, because what
At your
we're charging
salary.
currently was at a higher salary.
At
Yes,
your
sir.
salary. And that based on prior years, the cumulative addition to our budget would be 14,000?
Correct. That's what the new fees totally encumbered
Would bring in.
Correct. So
If
it's
the activity continues.
from what
at
we
the
are
same
today,
level.
yes, sir. So it's not a huge jump. I just wanted a mechanism when those niche inspections come in with fire pumps, commercial solar, anything like that that wasn't captured, we have a mechanism to charge for it because they are time consuming and there's costs involved, and that the appropriate fees as today with my pay salary with the inspectors meets what we're charging. Yes, sir. That was my whole thing to do it, and every 5 years we're supposed to update it. So those were the three main components of why we did this fee study.
I appreciate your candid responses and as well as yours, Eric. I would just suggest to the fire chief, it would be helpful to me in the future when you're looking at increasing fees like this, that maybe we could do a one-on-one. The others may not be interested, but I would be interested so that I don't have to waste the time of so many people with my questions. Thank you. You've given direct responses. I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Eric.
Are there any other comments, questions from the dais?
Yes. So following up on Dr. Daly's, one of the things he mentioned is how many people it's going to affect. Do we have an answer for example, the fire incident report or the fire prevention inspection? How many times a year are those done? Basically, who is it impacting?
So fire incident reports, that's another rare occurrence where someone after I'm also an investigator, so if we go out and we have a structure fire and someone, typically it's the insurance companies will request an incident report. There's time on task to produce those reports, so that's that. But again, that's a very rare occurrence. Knock on wood, we don't have a lot of fires in the city because of a good fire prevention. So, that's kind of rare. Can you be a little more specific about inspection type?
So it's this fire prevention inspection where
Is there a reference number attached?
S-037?
Yeah, it's S37. Because actually, in the report that's in the agenda, there is a detailed past that initial fee comparison report. Past that, there are detail sheets for every service. And so it tells you not only a description of the service, but who's involved and how many of them the city's doing.
Oh, I see what you're saying, Councilmember Jindal.
And so you could find the
037, fire prevention inspections, like AEI occupancies, small occupancies, all that. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, and I see I'm on that page. Where does it say how many we do a year?
And so there's two pages, a revenue cost
Let me
summary
find the page
worksheet,
for you.
and if you go.
So if you continue through the packet,
Detail worksheet.
so it's on page number, well, it doesn't have a page number associated, I apologize. But if you go halfway through the back of the packet, that cost or that time on task, it breaks down the quantity and how often we do it. I will say those fire prevention inspections, we do those on an annual basis, and those are already tied into a business license. So when a new business comes in town, we're very, we're on it. We do our annual inspection at those businesses, and so that's already tied to their business license. So that's charged on an annual basis for those inspections. And that's currently how it is today as well, sir.
And you can see that on that, once you get to that cost detail worksheet, how many is involved in each category. And these are ones where the recommended fees are actually going down.
And you'll see that there is a balance. There are some inspections that are going down, and there's some that are going up. That's why it came up to be not such a significant cost overall.
And then my last question, when we're talking about weed abatement, what is the source of that revenue?
So weed abatement is we do that twice a year on a biennial basis. So we do a spring and a fall weed abatement, and what that is to help reduce the the wildland fire threat within the city. We do it on any big parcels of land. We give them the initial notice. Then if they don't comply, our contractor goes out about a month later, does the work. We send out invoices. If they don't pay, that's when I've come to council to do to put the liens and assessments on the properties.
So the source of that revenue would be a resident, right? Not
Landowners, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so we'll need to open for public comment. No, nobody in the audience, and then I don't see anybody online, correct? Okay, we'll close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion or further discussion.
I move approval of the staff recommendation.
A motion from Dr. Daly,
Second.
a motion and a second from Mr. Jindal. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll?
Thank you. The motion is to adopt Council Bill R-2020-30, amending the master user fee schedule to update fire prevention inspection and plan check fees. Councilman Jindal?
Aye.
Councilman Leonard?
Yes.
Councilman Rigsby? Mayor Pro Tempore Daley?
Aye.
And Mayor Duper?
Yes.
And it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 through 15 is the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to move it, or would you like to discuss anything specific?
I'd like to pull a couple of items.
Okay. What would you like to pull?
6B,
Okay.
and I didn't have as much time to do my homework as I usually do. Just a comment on number 13 regarding permanent ballot drop box at the Civic Center. That's a great idea, given all the controversy we're dealing with right now. So, thumbs up on that one. And then number 14.
Okay, do you want to take these and address these
I don't know if anybody else has any.
real quick, or?
Usually Leonard has a half a dozen he wants to pull, so.
Why don't we just address 6B and 14, and then we can move everything together if we're all in agreement?
Okay, fabrication of the art, 6B, which I've talked with you and complimented it. I think it kind of adds a little character to the city. Are we getting any feedback on that?
Yes, I do.
And have we had any tagging on any of those?
No, the first question is, the answer is, yes, I receive people comment that they love it. And so that's why I want you to do more.
Yeah,
and
good.
so far, we have no vandalism to the art in public place in the city.
Good.
So
Good.
the two donkeys up on Beaumont, I was so surprised that nobody touched it. It's good shape. The dog silhouette at the
Yeah,
dog park
yeah.
is good. Cottonwood, the street to go down to Bryn Mawr Park, everything is still in good
Perfect.
condition. So
That's exactly what I hope to hear. And I didn't have an opportunity to read about Bridge Pay Network Solutions. Can you tell me about that? Is this like PayPal?
No, it isn't. BridgePay is actually, they are our credit card settlement processor. So, well, they are that processor. We have two vendors that we work with. One is they collect the actual card information, and then they submit it to process, and then the bank settles it. So we need to replace the processor as we move forward with the new software, and we will be getting the devices where we can take debit and with the chip in it. We need a new processor that has better software, that is more secure to process those chip. And there are only 2 vendors that the software company works with. BridgePay is one of them, and they are the ones they highly recommend because they will actually allow us to then do recurring credit card payments for utility billings within the software
Okay.
as well.
Does that cost us money? I assume?
Actually, it will be a little bit less because we pay 10 cents per transaction, and currently we get charged 10 cents per transaction. We get a batch fee, and then we get a monthly charge. With BridgePay, we will only be paying the 10 cents per transaction. We won't be paying the batch or the monthly charge.
Thank you. With that, I'll move the consent calendar.
Got 2 questions.
Yep.
First of all, for number 15, it was very broad in the summary. Do we already have those $10,000 allocated for something, or is it just general?
This is just general for purchase the mask and what else we purchase.
No, it's not already allocated. This would be allocated in funds for general fund reserve. And this is to offset
primarily specific IT expenditures and physical infrastructure expenditures directly to COVID-19. There is a mechanism for recovery through either FEMA or Homeland Security, but that recovery process is probably pretty far out there in the future. So we need to expend these funds now, and then anything that does come back to that recovery, then we'll go back to general fund. But it could be, well over a year before we get that money back.
Thank you. And then my second question for number 13, where we're placing a secure permanent ballot drop box. Do we have a second location? Have we ever used a different location?
It's going to be right at the front door here, right next to where you pay your utility bill.
Yeah, do we have a second location within the city that we've used in the past?
Well, there are still multiple voter
There's never been,
destinations.
this has never happened before. There's never been a ballot drop-off. This is the first time. We have
But they could
multiple.
still take it to,
Yeah,
like, Bryn Mawr
yes.
and drop it off there,
Yes.
too.
We've always had multiple polling
Yeah,
locations.
polling, that's it.
But we've never had a ballot drop-off system. That's new.
We've had, in the past, we've had ballot drop-off boxes. We've had one here in City Hall and one in the library, but they were only accessible when
But not
they
outside
were
the
open.
the
But
containers.
outside permanent boxes that are unlocked at election time and then locked again and not usable, this is the first time, and this is the only location.
How are we supposed to maintain social distancing in a plan like that? Should we have those little dots every 6 feet leading
Well,
up to the?
I was wondering who maintains the key for the box, because that could be a whole other controversy.
Yeah, it could be carried off by people in black. That would be you and me.
I don't think you have to worry about all the people being there. It'll be one person dropping off 900 ballots.
Oh.
Yeah, do we have a limit?
I appreciate that, yeah. I try to keep up with all the conspiracy theories.
So back to the question, do we have a second location that we've scouted or that we've considered just to increase accessibility?
This came from the county registrar office.
Right, they asked for a location, right, and we offered this location? I'm asking,
We do not have a second one. This is our first trial run.
got it. So did we consider a second location at all?
No,
Not yet. This is a trial run.
yeah, because they are the one who come out and lock the, pick up the ballot and lock the, so they already asked for one location.
But again, absentee ballots can be dropped off at any polling location. So there's locations all throughout the city.
Including the ROV, the Register of Voters Office also. If you don't trust the process getting up to that point, you can take it to their doorstep.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk?
The motion is to approve the items on the consent calendar. Councilman Jindal?
Aye.
Councilman Leonard?
Approve.
Councilman Rigsby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Daley?
Yes.
Mayor Duper?
I think I'm going to use the word approve. I like that. We've been just either yes or aye or whatever. I'm going to go with approve.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. It passes unanimously, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 16, old business. The letter to LAFCO.
All right, last meeting you asked us to draft a letter to LAFCO. It should be in your packet. We tried to cover both sides of the equation. First, to assure that we would be notified should there be a change in boundary or a reorganization of city limits requested by any party. And then secondly, that should anything like that progress, that we ask that the Scotch Lane community remain in Loma Linda. And upon your approval and under the mayor's signature, we will forward that to the executive director of LAFCO. Any questions?
All I see is recycled paper under the mayor's signature.
Well, it's a recycled letter. I mean, a motion or direction from council to proceed and to get this to the mayor and out the door?
Do we need a motion, or what do we need?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we
that's
would
what's
like,
needed.
we would like formal direction. Since it's a formal request from the council, it is there were many members of the community that came to speak out and ask for this. We'd like to also get it in the record that it's formally directed and that we can get that sent out. It kind of closes the whole process for everybody involved.
I will move the intent of it. I just want to make sure that legally, are we saying everything the way we're supposed to say it? Have our city attorney reviewed this for the wording?
I
and all that?
don't think he's reviewed it, but we've covered all our bases.
Okay. I'll move it.
I hadn't been asked to edit it, but we might just add the code section in particular that's referenced, and we could include the mailing address, and also request email notification if you like,
Okay.
just to cover the bases. So I could work with staff to fine tune that.
So if we're going to do that, then I will ask for a fourth amendment that either add another L to my first name or maybe my full first name. But that's nitpicking.
He did it.
We can do that.
Okay, so with those four amendments, or are you still good, Dr. Lenart? Okay, so
I will second the motion with the amendments recommended.
we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The motion is to approve the letter to LAFCO with the modifications as indicated by the city attorney and to correct the spelling on the mayor's name. Councilman Jindal?
Aye.
Councilman Leonard?
Aye.
Councilman Rigsby?
Yes, with the comment that if you put emails in, people change, and it could be different emails when they make the notification. So that may not be the wisest way to do it.
Mayor Pro Tempore Daley?
Aye.
Mayor Duper?
Affirmative.
Thank you. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item would be Council Bill R-2020-32, adopting the Measure I 5-year capital improvement plan.
This seemed like the one we did a couple months ago for the pavement rehabilitation, but a couple months ago we did for the SB1, which is the gasoline tax. And this is Measure I, which is the half-cent sale tax, okay? And both of them we submitted to the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, SBCTA. So the first table is identify how much money we estimate getting from the state. So for this fiscal year, we will have carryover of $561,000. And what happening is sometime I didn't use all the money, so it's carry over to the following year. And since this is the estimate revenue, some year we get more than what they told us, that more than the estimate. So for fiscal year 2021, we will get, it's easy to read from this, about $355,000. Fiscal year 21-22, we estimate revenue of $423,000. Fiscal year 22-23, $406,000. And fiscal year 23-24, estimate of $419,000. And fiscal year 24-25, $432,000. So this is the number that SBCTA gave it to us at the beginning of this fiscal year, and then we had to come up with the projects that we plan to spend the money on. And on that is on this map. So for this fiscal year, we plan to do a pavement rehabilitation on Redlands Boulevard, which just completed last week, from Anderson all the way to California Street. We already awarded a contract for pavement rehabilitation on Anderson Street from Barton to Stewart Street from Anderson all the way to Shepperson, and Miles Street from Shepperson all the way back to Anderson. Also, we plan to do Benton Street from Lawton to Barton Road, and Barton Road from Benton to Mountain View. This project, also, the City Council already awarded the contract last month, and the pavement going to start in early November. And the reason for that is I'm working with the hospital. They are in the process of paving their parking lot for the new hospital building. So I want to wait until they completed that, and also they're working on Taylor Street, which is this street right here, just to the west of Anderson. So after they're done, then I will pave the street. Also tonight, you just approved the contract for replacing the water main on Lawton from Campus Street up all the way to the end, and the Daisy, Tulip, Acacia, Richardson. So this street, we will first replace the existing water main from 6-inch to 8-inch, and then after the water main is installed, then we grind pave the street. So this is what we plan for this fiscal year. And then for the carryover of $500,000 that we will think we will receive this fiscal year, I will pave Barton Road from where we stop on Campus Street all the way to city boundary. And I'm also working with the city of San Bernardino to see if we can go all the way to Waterman. A small section of Barton Road is in the city of San Bernardino. We will do the work, but ask them to reimburse us for it. Also, for this fiscal year, for the fund balance, we plan to do the more sidewalk repair and citywide, in additional about 80,000. We started this year, the one we did the notice completion tonight, but we still have a lot more to do. So we'd like to do more and spend this money for sidewalk at various location. As far as future years, we plan to do more every year, but we have to present this back to the city council every year, so those future year can change. But for now, for this fiscal year, the one in brown that we plan to do, one more. California Street from Orange to Redlands Boulevard, to South Redlands Boulevard. The plan is at 90% complete. We plan to widen the California Street on the east side of the street. Right now, I'm working with with Edison, because they have to relocate about 6 or 7 power poles along the east side, and that's a time-consuming process. We also have to acquire a lot of right-of-way on the east side of the street, starting at Orange all the way to Park and past Park Avenue. We have to purchase some of the right-of-way and also storm drain. We plan to put storm drain pipe from Orange all the way to where we stop out at intersection of California and Redlands Boulevard. So that's part of California street improvement that we are working on. Yes, sir.
On California Street, how much of that is coming out of city funds versus developer funds?
Yes. On California Street, we received the Measure I from a regional, which is through SBCTA, about 62.8%.
Okay.
The remaining 31-point-some%, it come from development impact fee.
Will come from the development fees?
Yes.
Okay, good. No, that'll be nice. And what about the easement issues? Because there's, as I recall, it's been a little while since I've been up California Boulevard, but you get up to the north side, there are some houses that are pretty close.
Yes. And what was happening is I did talk to a couple of the property owner. When they are ready to sell, then I asked them to contact the city. But right now, we not plan to do eminent domain, so we have wide street and then narrow down and then open it back up.
That'll be a little awkward, but.
Yes, but I don't want to kick people out of the house.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And they're still working on widening the west side of the street when land development, like Lennar Home and apartment that you already approved, so when they're coming in, they will widen the west side of the street.
Now, I know when they developed the Arrow project, and Councilman Rigsby probably knows more about this than I do, but I know they had many eminent domain issues with that project.
So that's in my report, and request the city council approve the Measure I 5-year CIP, the map, the resolution, and the expenditure strategy.
Okay, I'll move it. We have a motion and a second by Dr. Lennart.
Got a question?
Oh, yes, sir.
Mr. Janelle.
So since we're doing Lawton Road or Lawton Avenue, do we have an estimate of how much it costs to build sidewalks along that same path?
The sidewalks are a little more difficult because we have to acquire additional right-of-way. And a lot of time is we prefer to go to the property owner to give us the right-of-way, and some property owner do not want willing to give the right-of-way. So that's a challenge. We've done that before in the North Central neighborhood. We put in the sidewalk for them, but the property owner willing to give it to us. So, yes.
How much does it cost when you already have the right-of-way?
It's about $6 per square foot.
Which is how much per linear
It's 5 feet
mile?
wide, so it's 5 feet wide.
So it's $30 a foot,
Yeah.
a linear foot. Or how much per mile?
It's 43,000. It's how many? 5,360 foot in the 1 mile. So, huh? 5360 times 30.
It's $150,000 a mile, but that's per side. So if you do both sides, it's twice that per mile.
160,000 miles.
Yeah.
Well, we've done it before, and so, but back when we did the North Central neighborhood, we used the CDBG money grant for it. But this area back here is not qualified for CDBG or North Central neighborhood, not anymore neither, so.
And then just out of curiosity, how much would it cost to install a bike lane if we had the right-of-way for a mile?
The bike lane is what happened is we had to do a study, we had to get approved from SBCTA, the state, also the state. We already have dedicated bike lane throughout the city, and we can't just put the bike lane just because, so we have to go through the study and process. But we prefer that we do that when we're ready to pave the street, because we have to narrow the travel lane down to be able to add the bicycle lane. It's been nice to do it during the pavement rehabilitation.
So I just want to clarify, I'm hoping this is what he's asking, which is, does it cost much to put in a bike lane? Because we typically don't widen the road for a bike lane, we just restripe the road.
Right.
So
Right.
it's relatively inexpensive if you just restripe.
Yes, but the thing is, to restripe, you have to erase the whole width of the street and narrow the travel lane down, so to be able to add the 5 feet bicycle lane.
Yeah, but a road like Lawton, which is already
Narrow.
wide enough for 4 lanes, you could easily put in, for example, bike lanes.
But they're going pretty fast down Lawton, so. Okay, we can look into it, just let me know where, and then we go to the process, and then. We have a bicycle route throughout the city, I'd be happy to share with you. And the route that we have bicycle lane in it, like Barton Road, part of Anderson, the trail system that we have. But we have to be careful, because, just because we have bicycle lane, people, like, a couple of years ago, we have 2 fatality on Barton Road, 1 on Bryn Mawr, so it's just. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, we had a first and a second. Any more questions?
Okay, the motion is to adopt Council Bill Number R-2020-32, adopting the Measure I 5-year capital improvement program. Councilman Jindal? Councilman Leonard?
Yes.
Councilman Rigsby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Daley?
Aye.
Mayor Duper?
Affirmative.
Thank you.
Item 18.
Okay, so you're going to move right into League of Cities Annual Conference Resolutions Packet.
Yes, if you look at your package, item number 18, have I'm just going to read it, a resolution of the General Assembly of the League of California Cities calling for an amendment of the Section 230 of the Communication. This is the Act of 1996 to require a social media company to remove material which promote criminal activities. So it was proposed by the City of Cerritos, and we have 5 other cities sponsor it. So if the council, or like the city council would like, I think Councilman Jindal will be the one who vote for this one. Yes or no on this?
So this is typically where we discuss whatever resolutions are up, and as a council, we decide what our city's vote will be, and then our delegate will carry that vote forward. So my understanding is this is kind of based on some of the recent lawlessness we saw in June and July, and a lot of that was predicated by people sharing live events on social media, such as some of the looting and rioting and whatnot. So my understanding is Cerritos put this together looking to curb that on social media to prevent kind of the mass gathering of people based on the lure of the social media posting.
I'm certainly not in favor of lawlessness and vandalism, but this is written so broadly, I have no clue what it means.
Yeah, it
So
is.
I can't be supportive of it. I mean, of course, we don't want vandalism and lawlessness. I don't care if it's white supremacists or the other side, but.
You can say it.
I'm trying to remember what it is.
Oh, okay, because if you can say one, I'm sure you can say both of them.
Well, what is it, AFTA, whatever.
I would say.
NAFTA.
Yeah, NAFTA, there you go.
They call themselves Antifa, but they're pro.
Antifa,
They're
that's what I
actually
was trying to think of, I
pro-fascist.
couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But this is so broadly stated, and what difference would it make if it's approved by League of Cities or not?
Well, and that's
It's not
the,
law.
well, you're right, and that's the point, is that then I would assume the league would advocate through our lobbyists to get some legislator to craft something. So, yeah, it's really very beginning stages. It's almost, it doesn't have much teeth to it, but it's basically that's something we should take up as a league in the coming months and years.
And I have to say something. The process is pretty sad because we sat in a big conference hall and we hardly can say anything. And everyone all say yes, and just a couple of people say no, and that's it.
Yeah, I should probably hold my comments, but I'm kind of concerned that, much like a lot of very good organizations, lobbying organizations that were around in the past, and I'll give you an example, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they've been virtually silent for the last several years, and there only seems to be certain voices that are actually heard in Sacramento. And so League of Cities is one of those things that, although I respect the league, I think the league does some phenomenal work locally, getting local cities together and the interactions and stuff that we do. Statewide, the league has very little power and authority, and it's almost like Sacramento is ignoring everybody unless you're a media conglomerate or something. So whether or not it's worth it or not, but
or a campaign donating organization.
But I do respect the effort of trying to do something. So
I'm just wondering how this is enforceable.
well, this is just a resolution, so it's not enforceable
And
at all.
beyond enforcement, sometimes the best way to extinguish bad behavior is to display it.
Well, who defines what the criminal activity is, too?
Yeah.
I guess that could be illegal ballot harvesting if you wanted to really. All right, I'm not getting any sparks going here, so. Does anybody want to move this, or do you want to just have our delegate abstain, or what would be your preference?
Bob, and you're going to be the guy in the hot seat. What do you think? I can tell you what I think, but I'm not going to be there.
So my biggest concern is obviously with freedom of speech, and like it was mentioned, this is so general that we don't really know what it means, and I know it's in the beginning stages, but we don't know what it's going to turn out to be at the end of the day. So I am leaning more towards no support.
I don't like the idea of us trying to say what somebody can and can't publish. I don't like that idea. I like sunshine. We talk about, we have to regulate these social media companies because they're not fair to one side or the other. Well, the solution is to get your own social media company and get out there and do it. I don't like, one thing I like worse is trying to tell people what they can and can't say. So, and I don't like the idea that it's kind of broad and you don't really know what's the definition of criminal activity. Somebody could say, well, that's criminal activity, but that's not, when clearly your own lying eyes tells you something else. So I'd be inclined not to support this either.
Yeah, I'm in favor of canceling everybody who disagrees with me.
Done. Well, the other option we could do is leave it up to Mr. Jindal. If he is swayed by any one way or the other in some of the other public comment, he can leave it up to his discretion. Or we could just say right now we don't support it. Whatever you guys want to do, I'm good.
How about he only gets to vote if he's breaking a tie?
I think he should be the first speaker.
I'm comfortable in the judgment of Councilman Jindal. I lean in the same direction as Councilman Leonard, but ultimately, this doesn't have any meat on the bones.
Okay. Was that clear direction or unclear direction? I think that's as far as we're going to get with it. So with that being said, we've come to the close of the City Council agenda, and we will adjourn and move into the,
Wait,
sorry.
report of officer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Riveting. Do we have any reports of officers?
Well, I want to say that we will have the next city council meeting will be September 22nd, so it'll be the second meeting this month. And this item that is important to us, which is the property in the Area D, service Area D, that Conrad would like to bring it back.
Oh.
That's item number one. And the second item that will be important for at next meeting is September 29th of this year will be 50th anniversary for the city incorporation, so.
And
We planned to have parade and party, but that was
there
all
were
canceled.
grand plans for a parade and all kinds of stuff.
So, that's my two reports. So I still have pen to hand out, so, and keychain to hand out, I will give to all of you, so you can hand them out to.
Should we do a virtual something?
If you all want to celebrate, you can come to my house on September 29. We'll be having birthday cake because it's my wife's birthday.
Because it's your birthday?
It was her birthday when they incorporated the city of Loma Linda on her birthday.
Oh.
So we'll have a little
Is she
party.
willing to share that event?
You're all invited if you bring a mask,
Okay. Awesome.
and we can turn it into the birthday of the city,
29th.
29th of
And
September.
you'll remind us on the 27th.
How is it that she's only 24 and the city is 50, though? I'm not sure I figured
It's
that one.
very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mysterious.
All righty. Any reports of council members?
No reports, just a question. I do a lot of commuting between Redlands and Loma Linda. How are we doing on Loma Linda median weed abatement?
Yes, I knew you could ask me that.
Well, I
thought you were gonna ask about the light rail.
Because of that, I already have a schedule, so we plan to get
Okay.
that done, yes.
That's all I need to hear. Thank you.
And we've been doing the community cleanup days, although we did suspend them for the last couple of weekends because it's been just too hot. So it's ridiculous to ask people to come out, so. Yeah. Okay, with that, we will close the city council agenda and open up the housing authority agenda, I'm sorry. Are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Any oral reports or public participation? Anyone from the public that wants to speak on a non-agenda item? I see no hands going up. There are no scheduled items, but we do have a consent calendar.
Move it.
I have a first and a second. Madam Clerk?
The motion is to approve the consent calendar. Councilman Jindal? Aye. Councilman Leonard?
Approve.
Councilman Rigsby?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore Daley?
Aye.
And Mayor Duper?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any reports of officers? No. Reports of council members? No. With that, we will adjourn the housing agenda and move on to the successor agency agenda. Do we have any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Any comments from the public? Going once, going twice? No, there's no conflict of interest, no scheduled items, except we do have a consent calendar.
Move it.
I have a motion
Second.
and a double second. Madam Clerk.
The motion is to approve the consent calendar. Councilman Jindal? Councilman Leonard?
Yes.
Councilman Rigsby?
Yes.
Mayor Potemporary Daley?
Aye.
And Mayor Duper?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the agenda. Thank you all.